eyes may be able to see, but without a heart, you cannot feel.
What's up, everybody? This is George C.O.C. Samuels, and you are tuning into episode 85 of the It Will Come Show. And today we are going to be talking about Airbnb cuts, Uber being sued, and what is time, all right? Or what is money? So let's dive straight into it. Okay, so yep, this happened. I mean, this was published only a couple hours ago, but Airbnb slashes 25% of staff as pandemic continues to batter global travel industry. Well, yes, so for a lot of folks, a lot of companies who are involved in the travel industry, in the hospitality industry, I think the worst is yet to come. There's still, if you think about it, it's only been around a couple months, say 2 to 3 months, since the world has, shut down its borders, had people laid off, etc. And I think it's going to continue because, the economy as it is or as it was cannot continue in the way that it has. And so, especially when you got a lot of people just not working, millions of people and job losses and economic hardship is a reality. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. So the first couple articles that I will share is just highlighting again, what's happening, and hopefully you're preparing for a lot of things during this time. But here Airbnb, as you can imagine, a lot of people are not being able to pay rent. So that means if people aren't being able to pay rent, then homeowners aren't able to collect rent. And if homeowners aren't able to collect rent, they can't pay off mortgages. So it's just a whole bunch of fun times. So that's on the Airbnb front. If you aren't familiar with Airbnb, they are known for their home sharing platform and for being part of the sharing economy. Airbnb stands for Air, Bread, and Breakfast. So if you are a traveler, you might be very well familiar with Airbnb. Next up, we have California sues Uber and Lyft for calling drivers contractors. So this is just development in an ongoing battle with Uber. And it's also kind of highlighting just the issues with the whole Silicon Valley model of just pumping money into companies, getting them to become these, unicorn companies in terms of valuation. But if you actually look at the books in terms of how much they are actually making versus the amount of debt that they hold, it might paint a very different picture, and it's just not sustainable. I think what we're going to see now is just a lot of investors, a lot of businesses going back to the basics of business, which is, can you create an actually profitable business, right? Something that will truly be sustainable, because really the businesses that are going to survive all this right now are the ones who are profitable, the ones who have been able to run an actual business. It's like, it's going back to the basics of business. And I think as a society, we've gotten so used to debt in general, right? And, our way of solving debt problems is pouring in more debt. And, isn't that hilarious that sort of the standards that we advise average citizens to adhere to, many bigger businesses, corporations don't, hold themselves to account in the same manner. So, coronavirus, there's the plus side is that it's highlighting a lot of the sort of flaws and cracks in our own financial systems and many other systems in general. So this is a good time to reset, and I hope we do take this as a lesson, and actually do something to not try and get back to the old normal, but look at the new normal. If we are being forced to reset things, what will that look like? I'm showing this because, one of my favorite guys, Mike Maloney. Now, to be fair, he is a bit of a doom and gloom guy. But at the same time, he has been right about a fair few things. And, you kind of always need to just not be completely closed off to skeptics, because every now and then they can be correct. And, Mike Maloney is somebody who's been advocating since 2002, trying to educate people about the real history around money, what is money. Hence why part of the title for today's show, What is Money? There's actually a series, I think it's called Hidden Secrets of Money. If you haven't seen this already, I highly recommend this series. So I'm just going to pull this up here. Yeah. If you've ever wondered what money actually is, or what the difference is between money, currency, cash, etc., Mike Maloney does a very good job of explaining why what a lot of people consider money in these times is actually not money. So a lot of people will call, the US dollar, any other sort of currency money, but technically it's not. What Mike Maloney actually calls money is gold and silver. And this is only because of its purchasing power over, centuries, millennia. And so, yeah, with that, it's very important at this time to understand sort of the basics of that in relation to everything that's happening right now, because a lot of our economic problems actually comes from not understanding the difference between these things. And if you look into the history of money, you'll see just how a lot of issues started when we started creating monopoly money. That's what I call it, where we just, came up with the idea that we can just print money out of nothing, and we just keep printing more money to solve issues around the original problem of printing money. With gold and silver, that's something that is finite, and so it naturally keeps things in check. When you have the ability to just create paper money out of thin air, the levers are controlled, right, by central banks, etc. And I think this was the big experiment to see if we could handle it. And well, now we're seeing. So that is the hidden secrets of money. Now, outside of the doom and gloom, right, there are some opportunities, and that's what I wanted to highlight as well. So the bright side of COVID-19, here are 7 opportunities, and I thought this article was pretty good. More time. So if you are currently, if you find yourself unemployed, or you're looking for transitioning to another career, or you're looking at other opportunities, right? Well, one, of course, you could look at starting your own business if you're that way inclined. Or 2, if you're looking to upgrade your skill sets, here we go, right? Especially your digital skill sets. I found this site recently, and it's called Free Code Camp. Learn to code at home, build projects, earn certifications. Now, you might look at this site and be like, but actually the content is really good. And so if you go in here, you'll just find a massive list of free content that you can access. And I'll keep that and I'll put that in the show notes. So opportunity one is more time. So if you have the time, use it wisely at this point in time. Reflect and reconsider. There's definitely been article again. Opportunity 1, more time. Opportunity 2 is to reflect and consider. This is a great time to journal. So I still have my paper journal, even though I've become a fan of Notion. I used to use Evernote actually, which is another sort of note-taking app for I think since 2011. And Notion is something that I now use to transfer a lot of my notes into. It's like a second brain, but it's a great way to reflect and reconsider. So if you've always been telling yourself, hey, I'm going to start journaling, now's probably a great time to. You have the time at home, and depending, if you've got kids, you might find yourself actually having less time. But it is an opportunity nonetheless. Opportunity 3, speed and innovation. So yes, this is probably more around, as I was talking about the opportunities for business, is when you're at home and people are being forced to figure out how to work remotely, you can actually start creating things a lot quicker, faster, and learning how to do that virtually. So this is really, about like, we were talking about the resets, with systems, and I think things are just being broken apart, and now it's going to be about like, well, we don't have time to waste. We really need to figure things out. And so, although there's a rest side, other members of society are going to be going full speed ahead to try and innovate new solutions to help people get out of this rut at the moment, find new innovative ways to do things. And so that's pretty exciting. Opportunity 4, better meetings. So this definitely is, if you think about it, right, I think we'll see, like there's been a rise in virtual conferencing and virtual meeting tools like Zoom, and this will also push people to not just have meetings for the sake of meetings, right? Sometimes people can use meetings as a crutch for not getting any work done or just to chit chat. And you'll find that a lot of people aren't actually, because they aren't used to remote work, they don't know how to digitally equip themselves to be more organized beforehand. So I think what's happening now is forcing people to realize, like, do we really need those meetings? If it's a status update, like we have a rule in our company to essentially not have meetings for just straight status updates, right? They should be a little bit more action oriented. At the beginning of a team formation, you might have that for status updates just to get people used to a rhythm. But then over time, you should really stop just using it as status updates, update meetings. Opportunity number 5, reconnect and help. Yep, this is all about helping others, right? So this is a good time to reconnect with loved ones, family, friends. Just write down a list, of everybody that you've been meaning to connect with or contact, and hit them up. Actually, just recently, I had a class reunion with my class from 2004, graduating class of 2004, and it was amazing. We had that option the entire time, but it took, a bloody global pandemic for it to get us reconnected again. Number 6, cleaner environment. Without a doubt, one of the benefits for the planet right now is us staying at home. I know, right, we are all thinking about, I need to get back to work, I need to make money, but, a lot of those behaviors, habits, is what has caused damage to our planet. So the longer that we are actually not out and roaming around and, just taking, the better it is for the environment. And I think this is a plus, because this should help us in the long term. And, if you think about it, a couple months out of however many years, decades of just constant activity, come on. So opportunity 7, modesty and acceptance. So, accepting. This is almost like going through the stages of grief. Using this time to be modest, even with your spendings and your activities in general, and then accepting where we are at right now. I think that's very very important. So those are 7 opportunities right now that are available to you, right? So have a think about those, see where you fall, and see what you would like to do more of out of these. And again, we'll put these in the show notes. Finally, this article I have, it is from a friend of mine called Craig Wright. He's involved in the blockchain space, and search his name and you'll see just how controversial he can be. But he has a lot of good thoughts, writings, and knowledge around Bitcoin, blockchain, etc. So his latest article came out 2 days ago called "Money is Time and Energy," and this is why I put up what is money. And according to Craig Wright, money is time and energy. And I would have to agree, because why do we have money in the first place? It's a way to sort of measure energy output, and then also a way to increase our time. Right, increase our time in the sense that, like, we can use it to pay for other people to help us out with things that we would otherwise be forced to do ourselves, right? And so that's kind of what we're purchasing. There was a movie with Justin Timberlake, I remember. I don't know if it was just called Time, but essentially they posited a future where they had these watches, and essentially the currency was time. And so when you went to go pay for things, you would actually share your time with other people. And so, it's pretty scary, though, because when you run out of time, that means you run out of money, and then you just cease to exist. So people are constantly looking at their watch to see how much time they have left, because that's their existence. And that really can mess with your mind, all right? But here, many falsely believe that by simply producing more money and redistributing it, we would all suddenly have more wealth. It can come in multiple formats, yada, yada, yada. But money is simply a means of mapping obligations. It is a way of sending obligations through time. With barter, individuals trade goods and services at a point in time. So this is an important point to make, because right now you're seeing in the world that I think even governments believe that just by printing more money, we're helping to solve the problems. And by putting more cash into people's hands, that's going to help solve problems. Not necessarily, because they don't realize is that by printing more money into existence, they actually devalue the money they're giving out anyways. The purchasing power, which I connect to, right, to gold and silver, which is what we were talking about before. So with that, with time and energy, what that means now is people just need to have a real think about, like, what is wealth? What is money? And if it is time and energy, this is why true wealth may be your relationships. It may be experiences, right? Why do we earn money? So that we can have more experiences, have more time, right? Think about the things that you purchase as the value, not necessarily the cash itself that we have come to think of as the true value. In both early Middle Eastern societies and early Chinese, grain stores would be used to collect and allocate the holdings of farmers, ensuring that individuals do not lose valuable foodstuffs to rodents and other source of loss. Right? So barter, if you're not familiar with bartering, it's essentially just exchanging like one cow for one pig, and it would be negotiated, in real time as to, okay, well, one of my cows is worth 3 of your pigs, and you both agree on that. Money just sort of standardized things and made it easier to be able to trade. So we used money as a token to represent mutual exchange. Money has formed as a universal societal contract in nearly all human societies. Correct. So the reason why we got to, currency being mistaken as money, or us using that, is because as societies have grown, it's become more. There have been different scaling needs. So that's why people at the beginning would agree on bartering, right? So 1 cow, 3 of your pigs, that's what its worth is. And then as a community, you guys everyone would agree on that. Then as things scaled up, they realized, okay, this is not enough. Then they might have started counting shells or something, and then moved into gold and silver, right? And then gold and silver, they realized that actually it wasn't as scalable because it was becoming harder and harder to transport around. And so then they invented cash, right? Paper currency. And I'm not too sure if it was the Chinese who first came up with it, but don't quote me on that. But again, interesting history. So then paper currency was invented, and that became a lot more portable. And then after the cash, we then saw credit cards, right? Plastic. And then, of course, the next evolution actually came in the form of digital currency, right? Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was definitely the thing that sparked it all. And this is why there is such a lot of fuss around it, and why it gets mentioned a lot, because Bitcoin is sort of that just natural next evolution of what is money, right? So something to think about. Okay, and with that, again, I won't go through the entire article, but I'll probably leave us off with this last one. Commerce on the internet has come to rely almost exclusively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weaknesses of the trust-based model. Completely non-reversible transactions are not really possible, since financial institutions cannot avoid mediating disputes. The cost of mediation increases transaction costs, limiting the minimum practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility for small, casual transactions, and there is a broader cost in the loss of ability to make non-reversible payments for non-reversible services. What Craig is talking about here is we've had to rely on money handlers, trusted third parties, because we hadn't found a way to actually leverage the internet's capabilities of bite-sized and much more smaller increments of money, right? And so we call them micropayments. And because of that, we've had to rely on others to be able to handle those things for us. But what Craig Wright is talking about in a potential Bitcoin world, you wouldn't need to rely on them per se to be the approver of money being transferred, that the system itself of Bitcoin could be its own handler by making it publicly visible in the first place. That's why they call it a public blockchain, transparent. And by doing that, you conceal who the money is being transferred from between A and B, right? Making it private, not necessarily anonymous. And then those who are the senders and receivers, they're the ones who will know who they are, right, in a transaction. But this provides a level of accountability that kind of negates the need for a trusted third party. And so this is why this comes in to sort of the talk about money, time, energy, gold and silver. And then, if we look at Airbnb and Uber, the reason why I brought that up at the beginning was because the reason why they're needing to make cuts, apart from COVID-19, is also because of the model that has that we've become used to is debt-based. It's about just pumping as much money into something and just growing as fast and quickly as possible, but not looking at sort of the cost in future time and energy, right? And so this is something that just I find very fascinating, and probably hear me talk more about. But yeah, when it comes to money, right? Would love to hear your thoughts. What is money to you? What is time to you? Share below. Remember to subscribe. And as always, remember, through patience and persistence, it will come.
The eyes may be able to see, but without a heart, you cannot.